Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda Kumar, and I'm a regional anesthesiologist at Duke. Welcome back to our second coffee chat with DukeRAP, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have a virtual cup of joe with Dr. Maggie Holtz. Maggie is the Chief of Regional and Orthopedic Anesthesia at Wellstar-Kennestone Regional Medical Center in Marietta, Georgia. She has a passion for education, has previously been on faculty at Emory and Yale, and has taught at several national and international workshops. One of my fondest memories with Maggie is exploring Tel Aviv together when we were there to teach at a regional anesthesia symposium. Maggie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Amanda. I'm really excited to be here.
All right, so we are going to kick things off with a speed round of some fun, non-medical questions to get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. Where are you from?
I'm from East Lansing, Michigan.
If you couldn't be an anesthesiologist, what would you do instead?
So my dream job would be ESPN College Game Day. For any of you who know me, I'm obsessed with college football.
Perfect. What is the strangest thing you've purchased online during this COVID pandemic?
That would be another French bulldog.
Very cute. Where's your favorite place in the world?
I'd have to say my parents' cabin in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, right on the lake, just very peaceful.
What irrational fear do you have?
I am deathly afraid of clowns.
I think a lot of people share that. If you could meet any historical figure, who would it be and why?
Franklin Roosevelt, hands down. Freshman year, college dorm room, my roommates brought, photos of Leonardo DiCaprio, and I waltzed in with a picture of FDR, which I did hang up. And as you can imagine, I was so popular then, as I am now.
What is your most used emoji?
It's that laughing so hard you're crying emoji. Although, I will say, I was on TikTok yesterday, and according to Gen Zers, that emoji is no longer a thing.
Ooh, I'm heartbroken with that.
I know, right?
What sport would you compete in if you were in the Olympics?
Figure skating. I was a competitive figure skater growing up, so the one thing I can sort of do well.
Very cool. What is your superpower, a special skill that's unique to you?
I'm really, really good at getting stains out of clothing.
Nice. Tell me something on your bucket list.
I would love to teach at an ASRA workshop.
What is your favorite kitchen appliance?
My wine refrigerator, hands down.
Very cool. And what is the best piece of advice you've ever given?
The best piece of advice I've been given and have given in turn is you can have it all, you just cannot have it all at the same time.
So true. Well, thank you, Maggie, for letting us get to know you a little bit better. So today, for the meat of the interview, I'd love to chat with you today about your experience in fostering an innovative and busy regional anesthesia service in private practice. So you started your career very successfully, I might add, in academics. What sparked the switch to private practice?
Well, it's a funny story. My soon-to-be ex-husband found his ideal job in his hometown, and so off we went. And I didn't really want to leave academics, and in fact, I would love to return someday. That would be my absolute dream, assuming I don't make it on ESPN. But I think with every, challenge comes an opportunity, and I've been at my job for almost a decade now, and I'm proud of what I've built here. I think that, I don't have the name or the accolades or the research or any research, but I think private practice has given me a very distinct skill set. And it's made me a very competent and confident and caring anesthesiologist. And, really at the end of the day, that's what matters to me. We still do all the fancy and progressive blocks. And I think, honestly, it's a little bit easier to get those things through in private practice because of less red tape. So, for example, we've been doing same-day total joints for the better part of 7+ years at our institution. And, I'd go to ASRA and watch a podium talk about things that we had already been doing for years. So I think there is a benefit in a way to being able to do things faster. What I really miss, however, is the teaching. I truly, truly miss teaching and education. And fortunately, by tagging along with you, Amanda, and your colleagues. So thank you for letting me tag along all the time. But, I've been fortunate to be involved in the NYSORA workshops and the State Society workshops, and that really has filled a distinct void for me.
Well, teaching alongside you at some of these workshops, it's been such an amazing opportunity for me to learn from you as well. I've always been so impressed with such the high throughput that you have on a day-to-day basis and how you have these little pearls for efficiency. And if you really miss teaching, there's always a spot in North Carolina for you if you ever decide to move a little bit up north.
I just may take you up on that.
All right. What are some of the biggest barriers you faced in setting up a block service?
So I think we all share a lot of the same barriers. I think there's a few that are more unique to private practice. One is really just sort of the reticence to change and for progress. It's the old mentality of, I've been doing it this way for 20 years. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But this is really not in line with how medicine in general is dynamic, and particularly regional anesthesia. So, I'll come back from a conference and my colleagues will be like, oh, I hate it when you go to conferences because you come back and you want to change everything and invent new blocks and all this kind of stuff. But, you just kind of forge ahead, and you have people on your service that really do share in that passion for progress. I think the other barrier that we see specifically in private practice is sort of an expectation. So if you're going to be starting a new block, for example, or just changing a protocol, there's the expectation that you're going to do it perfectly the first time within 30 seconds, and then every single one of the block docs is going to achieve that same level of immediate consistency. And that sort of impatience for the learning curve is not realistic. So, again, this goes back to having the surgeons trust you in instituting new programs.
So can you tell me a little bit more about how you've been able to successfully foster your regional anesthesia service, and what advice you would have for others who want to set up a new efficient block service at their practice?
Sure, absolutely. So, we do have quite a machine going on here. We have a dedicated block room with dedicated block nurses that are employed by the hospital. We also have a dedicated block nurse practitioner who's employed by our group. And I think this system and that setup really allows us to stick a lot of needles in a lot of people. And I think it's made it possible. We also have a team of regional anesthesiologists, and I think that's a bit unique in private practice. A lot of private practices that I've visited have everybody does blocks. And I think it's important to have just sort of that expertise in that niche. It really allows us to be more flexible anytime we want to change a protocol, anytime we want to learn and master a new block, so we can really be more consistent in the service that we deliver to both our patients and our surgeons. I think there's a number of pieces of advice that both I've been given and I give out. One is really, if you want to ramp up your service. And we block about 25 to 30% of all of our OR cases in a given day. So, quite a large volume of blocks. At our ortho center, we block 100%. So we've been able to achieve that by having a block room and that staff. And I think it's a leap of faith for an administration if you're not starting with that high volume, but it's really the way to get there. And you'll see on the other side, if you can get to that point, it's going to be far more financially feasible for the hospital and far easier for you to serve, your patients with effective blocks. I think another thing that I would recommend is, take field trips. So, pre-COVID, I used to routinely go to visit people. I would go everything from major academic centers, I've been to Duke, to private practices, to ASCs, just to observe. And I think you learn a lot. You might learn a brand new block. You might learn tweaks or pearls to help you with blocks you've been doing for a while. Things like process improvement. I look at what works for them and what doesn't work for them, and I consider what might work for me in my own practice. So that's been an invaluable lesson. Short of that, and again during the pandemic, I think just calling people. I think the regional anesthesia community is small. It's like a family, and just these peer-to-peer conversations are very, very useful. I literally cold called people when we were starting our same-day total joint program, and thankfully, they didn't call security on me. They actually talked to me, but they were very, very helpful. And I think most people are willing to share that, because you don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? You don't need to start from scratch. There are plenty of people who have done this who can share what works for them and also their mistakes. I think another thing is attend workshops. Best way to learn, hands-on workshops. I know you and I both teach at the NYSORA workshops. I think those are great. So I think getting that hands-on experience. And last but not least is really just building those relationships with your surgeons. I know that sounds kind of common sense and difficult at the same time, but the more they trust you, the more they're going to let you have some leeway in starting new blocks and changing protocols. And I think that if you do initiate a new block, take ownership of it. So, collect metrics and accept feedback and make adjustments and really make your surgeons feel involved in the process. And, that's really how we've been able to institute the changes at Kennestone.
I love that. That's amazing advice. So this is also a really exciting time of year. So we're in the midst of interviewing fellowship applicants. Our current fellows are solidifying their post-graduation career plans. What advice would you give to graduating anesthesiologists who are considering private practice but really haven't had much exposure over the course of their academic training?
Yeah, that's a tough one, Amanda. I really wish that every fellowship had a built-in, at least 2-week rotation in private practice. We had that in residency, and that was a really amazing learning experience. I would love to host fellows, who want to come to me and learn about what private practice is all about. I think that would be an invaluable tool. Short of that, any sort of networking, any sort of peer-to-peer conversation, all of us are willing to talk about our experiences. And, Azure just started that mentorship program, and I think that is going to be an amazing resource, because you'll be able to see on there, who's in private practice, who's in academics. You can kind of focus, where your goals align.
That's wonderful advice. I think that the silver lining of this whole COVID pandemic has just really allowed us to embrace being connected in a more virtual sphere.
Absolutely. Right? And it's kind of, it's counterintuitive, right? Because you think, we're going to connect in person, but we haven't had a choice during this pandemic. And I think it has brought us closer together in a way.
Yeah. Well, Maggie, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. It was such a treat to hear your perspectives and insight into life in private practice. And it's really just wonderful to be able to catch up. I really miss seeing you in person.
I miss you too, Amanda. Tell everybody at Duke hi, and I really hope to see everybody soon.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for tuning into Coffee Chat with DukeRAP. We'll see you all next time.